If you want to hear how Crypt series such as Looksee, Troubled Youth, Stoneheart, and Mordeo are all about to collide, then stick around to the end of this video. Hello and welcome to Horror History. I'm your teacher, Emo Abraham Lincoln. In today's lesson, we've got a lot to cover as we'll be going over the entire timeline of events in the Crypt TV Monster Universe. Mordeo, Looksee, Sunny Family Cult, and so much more are a part of this history, and we've got over 400 years of lore to discuss. This lesson is sponsored by Crypt TV. The earliest known event takes place in 1609 when Elkridge Falls is established. This is where the events of Mordeo would later take place. In the late 1600s, the cursed statue seen in Stoneheart is created in New England during the witch trial era.
She came from up in New England somewhere. Some witch trial protector of women nonsense.
In 1848, Avon Manor School is established in the UK and would serve as the setting for Shelley nearly 200 years later. Back in the United States though, two more towns are established, one in Mohawk, New York in 1853, and one southeast farming town known as Harbor in 1876, which would later be terrorized by crypt monsters like Looksee, Apony, Walter, and Fluffy. About 50 years later, the Great Economic Depression hits the United States, and on March 20th, 1930, in New York City, a banker named Robert Capshaw kills his entire family upon the closure of the bank created by him and his brother. The brother, James Capshaw, is forced to leave New York 2 years later due to the financial situation and the death of his youngest son, and he moves his family out to Harbor, which only consists of some farmhouses at the time. He starts getting foreclosure notices at the barn, and since he's unable to let go of his emotional attachment to his old bank, Looksee goes after him. However, a gang of thieves led by eventual YouTuber James Janice shows up at the same time and gets to him first, and Looksee takes one of them out as a warning not to get in the way. One by one, Looksee takes out the thieves and the rest of Capshaw's family, each having some kind of emotional attachment that they're unable to release. Only two survivors are left, the cold-hearted leader of the thieves and the young daughter, who assists Looksee in completing a ritual to awaken a second Looksee monster. I wouldn't be surprised if the two Looksees started their own twin-themed YouTube channel, because that's the popular thing right now, isn't it? Nearly another 50 years go by before the events of Mordeo in 1979. It starts with a man who's turned into the Mordeo for eating flesh in the woods. What would follow is the first sighting of a spellbook known as the Crypt Tome. A man known as the Butcher is in possession of the tome, and attempts to summon Mordeo by cutting off another man's finger and eating the flesh on the summoning ground. He wants to be changed into a monster, but the Queen Mordeo kills him because the flesh he ate was not eaten out of desperation. Meanwhile, a newspaper headline from Mohawk tells of a continued search for the missing Girl Scouts, so Mohawk and Elkridge must be somewhat close to each other. The girls stumble across the resurrection grounds and the Crypt Tome, but the Mordeo Queen kills one of the girls, causing the remaining two to get into a fight. One girl bites the other as a form of desperate self-defense, and the other girl slips and hits her head on a rock. She brings the tome to a desolate cabin where she says she belongs to the Mordeo and starts to transform. When the transformation is complete, she kills off an injured man whose girlfriend takes the book to try to lead her out of the woods to escape. The next morning, she's surrounded by several Mordeo, and although she is able to make it out to the road, she's unable to escape their wrath, where the tome is once again dropped. YouTuber Bobby Burns, who apparently was a part of the Sunny Family Cult in the 70s and 80s, finds the book, which leads us to the era of the cult's possession of the book. The cult emerges into the mainstream a couple of years after finding the book in 1982, the year a man peeing on the side of the road is killed by two cult members on April Fool's Day, and a crooked lawyer is stabbed many times and dumped into a lake where the calling card of the Sunny Family Cult is found. The cult gains so much notoriety that in 1994, two men named Elias and Roger attempt to start up their own chapter of the Sunny Family Cult. They capture a scam artist who corrupted one of their members and stab him to death. Elias and Roger create their mass as they begin recruiting new people in an isolated location in the western United States. Roger becomes obsessed with the Crypt Tome, inspired by the legends of Soot, the Birch, Apony, Looksee, and Mordeo. He reads the prophecy that a girl of 17 with violence etched into her soul at the moment of her greatest weakness, a blood sacrifice of 4 victims, and the 5th will become something. He has a vision of the girl, who tells him to find her. Disagreements arise between Elias and Roger on the values of the cult, with Roger wanting to kill everyone involved in the corrupt system, and Elias only interested in snuffing out the sources of the corruption. Elias and Roger battle for control of the cult, and Elias wins. Roger backs down and continues to hang around the cult for another year until May 19, 1995, when Roger attacks someone that Elias refuses to kill, and they ultimately go their separate ways. The next tick on the Crypt timeline takes place a couple of years later, across the pond at Acton Manor, the brother school of Avon Manor, where a girl named Shelley Carter meets with her boyfriend Oliver Greenwood at the border between the two schools. He gives her a bracelet, one of his final gestures to her before being burned alive in some kind of chemical storeroom during science class. His teacher looked the other way, tired of Oliver's constant misbehavior in class. The headmistress covers up the accident, not wanting the school to get bad press. When Shelley realizes that her boyfriend is missing, she begins to snoop around the school for clues. Realizing this, the headmistress takes action to ensure that Shelley does not find anything that she shouldn't by hiring another student, Heidi, a girl who already dislikes Shelley, to dispose of her.
If you squish this bug for us, we can guarantee there'll be a place waiting for you at Willowdale Elite.
High school would have been so much more interesting if there were bounties on every student. Oh wait, I'm a teacher now, I'm not supposed to say that. The following year, on graduation day in June 1998, Shelley is strangled by Heidi and two other classmates. She watches helplessly as her classmate Celine is too afraid to stand up to the bullies, and Shelley meets her demise. The incident is staged as a suicide, and they hang Shelley's body on stage during graduation. After parting ways with Roger and strengthening his own chapter of the Sunny family cult, Elias got married and moved to a small Iowa town known as Bettendorf. Around the time of the new millennium, they gave birth to their first and only daughter and named her Taylor. They kept their lives as cult leaders a secret from their daughter for as long as they could, about 6 years, before she snuck downstairs and witnessed one of the rituals. Apparently, they had not heard of baby monitors. Her parents tell her to keep the rituals a secret, but Taylor becomes more and more interested in the activities of the cult over the years. As this gradually happened while Taylor continued to grow up, an incident occurred in the small New York town of Mohawk. In the year 2007, in a certain house, a Mohawk man beats up on his wife before going outside to have a smoke. He hears a girl's laughter in the distance, and after being out there for some time, his wife comes out to check on him and discovers his decapitated head. It's another 5 years or so before the next interesting development with Elias's daughter Taylor. The cult discovers that a copycat member of the cult has killed a child in town. This marks the first time that Taylor has attempted to take an active part in the operations of the cult. Against her parents' wishes, she sets out to expose the copycats, putting herself in danger before eventually being rescued by the cult and facing her father's fury.
I'm gonna tell you this one time and you are gonna listen. You don't ever do that again. This whole thing, everything that we have and are, it's me. You don't change the plan. You don't say a word unless I tell you to.
The town of Harbor has developed into a much more populated community since the birth of the second Looksee in the 30s. Now, the town has attracted a new monster, the Santa Claus-like demonic creature known as Walter, who eats children who are awake past midnight on Christmas Eve. In 2012, Walter commits what is assumed to be the first of a string of child disappearances on Christmas Eve. The episode is titled Walter's Revenge, and while it's unclear what this little girl actually did to him to warrant revenge, it must have been pretty bad because he eats her alive. Her sister Delaney is a witness to this midnight snack and would spend the next 6 years plotting a revenge of her own. A revenge on the revenge. Can we call that a re-revenge? But before that would happen, there's a week where 3 Crypt Monster stories all take place at once in Harbor. They are Season 1 of Looksee, Troubled Youth, and Season 2 of Stoneheart. Let's start with Looksee, who rises again after 13 students at Harbor High are killed via poison. This causes Looksee to come after many of the parents and family members mourning the children who died, who are unable to release their emotional ties. Looksee forces the assumed killer to do his bidding by leaving notes for all of the other victims. One of these victims reads her note on the door of a bathroom stall, because we have really terrible public restrooms here in America, and while she's unable to release her love for her separated husband, she's somehow able to survive the attack, leaving her in the hospital with 2 broken legs. Looksee appears to her again in the form of the husband, but this time she's able to fight back and drive the creature away, leaving her physically broken and emotionally dead. Not long after, Luxie forces her to write the notes for its future victims. Meanwhile, at a nearby school called Journey High, a wolf-like creature runs amok, killing several students with the assistance of her master, a cheerleader named Eva. Not long after that, a second incident takes place at a local library, where it's revealed that this other girl has the ability to transform into the monster. And while all of this is going on because this town is really having a bad week, a girl named Rebecca inherits the power of an ancient witch named Epony. The power takes over her whenever she's in the presence of abusive people, and she uses it to kill her alcoholic father. She starts attending a support group for the abused. As she meets each member, Epony helps her take out all of the toxic people in their lives. One day, the two goth sisters follow her home and witness Epony's power when Rebecca beats up 3 guys who gang up on her. The sisters become obsessed with her powers and attempt on 2 separate occasions to ambush Rebecca and try to learn the power's secrets. Little does she know, the group was just a facade. The group leader and the goth sisters are in league with, you guessed it, the Sunny family cult, in order to try to transfer Rebecca's power to one of them. At the end of the season, they appear to have succeeded in stealing the power of Epony.
The last reported Sunny killing was in 2015 in the northern Iowa town of Bettendorf.
This is the last Sunny family cult incident to be reported in the news, but that doesn't mean that they aren't active in 2016. Taylor goes on a date with a college boy at age 16, where they sneak into a swimming pool and she lures him into a shed where she's supposed to kill him in front of her parents as a cult initiation, but she's unable to go through with it. Her father is upset with her, so to make up for it, she invites 4 of her friends over, telling them her parents aren't home. The friends come over and play Truth or Dare, but hang with me, this is much better than that one movie. Taylor is dared to do 7 minutes in heaven with one of the boys, but when time runs out, she's the only one who comes out alive. She cuts the power and kills the other girl that they're hanging out with. Then she stabs the other girl's boyfriend. She tells the last boy that she likes him and invites him to join the cult. He refuses, so she kills him as well. That week is the last week of school. Taylor makes a new friend named Jaina. Taylor starts feeling regretful about what she's done and vents in her diary. She finally meets Roger, who's posing as a substitute teacher at her school in order to keep an eye on her. He would later come after Taylor and Jaina with an axe while they're sneaking around the school after hours in order to scare Taylor into believing that her family could be in danger. Taylor, Jaina, and her boyfriend Lance celebrate Taylor's 17th birthday as she struggles between normalcy and her life in the cult. As they're all leaving, Roger kills Jaina's boyfriend and leaves the Sunny family cult calling card along with his body in the woods. The stage is set for Roger to change his story on the girls, pretending to be a police officer investigating the killer. Taylor connects this to the man who came after her at the school, thinking that Roger has a chance to catch this man, but not knowing that it was actually Roger trying to trick her. He tells Taylor that she might be in danger and wants to take her in for questioning, but instead kidnaps her and drives her across the country to a motel in the California desert. They arrive there on May 21st. Roger kills 2 tourists and the motel manager. He introduces Taylor to the Crypt Tome, which is still in his possession. He tells her that he believes that she is the girl of 17 who will give him the power to transform as described in the book. Taylor is able to call her father for help, but she's also starting to have some strange visions. At one point, Taylor has a vision of every crypt monster to date, and they're all connected to this ritual that Roger's trying to carry out. Her father shows up to save her, but becomes the 4th blood sacrifice in doing so. In retaliation, Taylor gives Roger what he wants by killing him, fulfilling the text written in the book, the 5th will become something, and beginning his transformation. At some point after this, the Crypt Tome is given to this mysterious man and taken to the UK. We're yet to find out exactly how this happened, but one can assume that Roger just had no more use for the book. There are a few crypt series that don't have exact dates associated with them. There's The Door in the Woods, which sees the unleashing of this monster who murders the entire town except for one girl, who loses her arm as she seals away the monster once again. This appears to take place in the past, but this may just be a society that's rejected technology, because the monster, the Brute, also appears in Hospice, the story of a haunted hospital wing which seems to take place a couple years before present day. The Birch only has a single episode out, but it looks to be more or less modern day, and the plot is about the summoning of a forest-dwelling protective creature. Soot is a Grim Reaper-like monster who reclaims the lives of those who escaped death in a modern setting. I believe all of these take place before the events of Mohawk, which looks to take place around April or May of 2018. At the very least, we know that school is in session and it's warm out. Remember way back earlier in this video, if you were even paying attention, when I mentioned the man who was decapitated by the ghost girl in 2007? Well, in 2018, a new family moves into that same house after the father is fired from his job in New York after getting too handsy with his nursing staff. The family struggles to adapt to the small town, and the son, who's regarded as a freak by nearly everyone in the story, has these visions of ghosts that inhabit the town. The ghosts begin to attack his older sister, killing her and hanging her up in the front yard on their second night in town. Upon discovering this, the dad loses it and goes after the son, proclaiming that he should have been the one to die. That's when the ghost of the girl from 2007 starts messing with the father before ultimately completely tearing him apart with her chains. The mother runs into the street to try to get help, only to be ignored by everyone in town, who are somehow being monitored by these little packs with red blinking lights. Before the mother is able to escape the town, she too is run down by the ghost. The fate of the son is still unknown. The modern day events of Shelley can't take place long after that, as those take place 20 years after Shelley's death at the Avon Manor High School reunion. Shelley comes back to life and, with the assistance of Celine, exacts her revenge on the 3 high school bullies responsible for her death. She saves Heidi, the girl hired to assassinate her, for last, and hangs her body before the entire school reunion. Having gotten what she wanted from Celine, Shelley turns on her to get revenge for how she turned a blind eye to the 3 bullies all those years ago. Shelley cuts off Celine's hand and takes back the bracelet given to her by her boyfriend. She takes it to the man with the Crypt's tome, who uses some kind of spell to power it up again. The school's administrators throw their best man to try to cut down Shelley and prevent any more damage, but she defeats him, and she's able to successfully resurrect Oliver. Together, Shelley and Oliver do away with the rest of the corrupt administration, thus completing their mission, for now. What Shelley doesn't realize is that the strange man with the Crypt Tome pits her and Celine against each other. Celine comes to Shelley's family home disguised as Shelley, who's been dead for over 20 years now, and kills her sister and mother before setting fire to the house. The man who powered up Shelley's bracelet is behind it, and he likely wants to fuel Shelley's rage in order to motivate her to do more of his bidding. Our last story takes us once again back to Harbor for Christmas Eve 2018. 6 years have passed since Delaney watched Walter kill her sister, and she's been plotting ever since about how she can exact her revenge. She invites her middle school friends over, and together they develop a plan to capture Walter, using human bait and the holiday decorations set up around the house. They successfully capture Walter, but foolishly leave him alone to untie himself while waiting for someone to come pick up the body and dispose of it. Come on, Delaney, you were this close. When you're dealing with Walter, you gotta wish him a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Walter gets out and attacks one, if not all of them. At some point, he escapes and goes on to devour another little girl at another house. I think the interesting thing about these crypt monsters that sets them apart from one another is that each one represents something. Those of you who watched the previous episode of Horror History probably recognize Mordeo as Crypt's interpretation of a Wendigo, which warns against the taboo of cannibalism. Shelley is all about karma. That which you do to others will come back to you. Luxie represents lingering feelings and regrets. A pony is all about the power to stand up for oneself against abuse and trauma. And the Sunny Family Cult focuses on the themes of individuality and finding your own path, fighting for your own values. This does not mark the end of the Crypt Monster Universe though, far from it. There are new entries into the Crypt lore being uploaded Fridays on Crypt TV, and coming in May, a new series, Fight Night, where Crypt monsters will be facing off against humans in epic cage matches. So make sure you're subscribed to their channel as they continue to fill in some of the missing gaps on this timeline, and I'll see you in the next one, assuming we both survive.